Hello, St. Anne Parish, and welcome to this week's Quick Things video. It may look or sound a little different. I'm coming to you through Facebook this week. We had some issues recording on YouTube, so hopefully this will work okay. We're going to keep it quick, or at least the beginning here, because last week we went a bit long, but we had lots of important things to talk about. First of all, our Advent Vespers and Voices continues this Thursday. We had a great beginning last week as we welcomed Father Andre Weller, who talked about Blessed Solanus Casey. We had a few technical glitches. You couldn't hear me at a few points, and then you heard me singing at a few points where you shouldn't have been hearing me. But anyway, we'll have those all worked out this week. And besides this week, we'll all be in one place. We'll all be in church at 6:30 on Thursday. That's when the live stream begins. I shouldn't say we'll all be there. There will be just a handful of ministers, literally a handful. It's an online experience, so the live stream is at 6:30 on Thursday, but you can watch anytime after that, and a link for that Advent Vespers and Voices is with the email in which you are receiving this video. Leanne Lilla, our co-director of Disciple Formation, will be preaching this week on St. Elizabeth. And then remember, a week from now, on December 17th, Bishop Callahan will be with us. He will be our Advent voice that night, preaching about St. Joseph. So again, Advent Vespers and Voices this Thursday, 6:30 is the live stream. You can watch anytime after that. Also with the email in which you've received this Quick Things, are links to several great opportunities for reflection, for music, preaching as we continue through Advent. So take advantage of some of those things. A few of them are just beautiful concerts. If you can find some time to just be at peace and experience some good music and some good reflection as well. Like there's a concert from Viterbo University. I'm fortunate to be on their board of directors. And they have Advent lessons and carols that includes, for example, some reflections from Pope Francis, from Servant of God Thea Bowman, scripture as well. That's always good. So again, those are all part of this email, those links to various resources. Also, resources in our library, a nice display of Advent and Christmas resources that you can just run in, grab a few things, check them out, go home. So nothing that you'd spend time with in the library, but some nice things to look at. So if you're inclined to maybe spend some time with some more reflective reading during Advent and Christmas time, some things there to check out. It's right inside the gathering space, so it's easy to find and easy to check out those books. Also, if you don't have a little blue book, I'd encourage you to find one. They're right inside the entranceway of church or in the little free library as well. But if you have it at home and haven't looked at it, try to find it before we get too far into Advent. Some really nice, thoughtful reflections on the Gospels that we hear on Sunday. So what they do is take that Gospel and kind of a line or two a day and just kind of parse that a little bit. And some nice insight into John's Gospel that we've heard proclaimed the last two Sundays. So again, find a copy for yourself in the little free library or right inside the door of church, or if you have it at home already, and haven't been giving it attention, this would be a good time to do that. We had scheduled several opportunities for the Sacrament of Reconciliation during Advent, but because of the rising incidence of COVID cases in Marathon County, I have canceled all of those. I'm not inclined to go and sit in the reconciliation room, a tiny room, with whoever comes in and whatever I may bring into that space. So I think it's just safest for us to forego the Sacrament of Reconciliation for the time being. We will resume in the new year as soon as we can. There's no obligation to celebrate the Sacrament of Reconciliation during Advent. It's an important devotion and pursuit that many of us have had over the years, but it just doesn't seem wise to do that at this time. To be quite frank, I need to take care of myself so I'm able to do what's most important, and that at this point would be to celebrate Mass on Sundays, and also then, of course, to celebrate 5 Masses at Christmas. That's what we want to be able to do. So there are a few other things that I'll set aside and we'll get to when things clear up a little bit. One other Advent-related thing was we have some beautiful items made from wool made by the people of the L'Arche community in Bethlehem. Some really nice, beautiful items. They're on sale in the gathering space. They're on sale after Mass. Also, if you want to stop in during the week, just give us a call and we'll arrange a time for you to come and check out those items from the L'Arche community. The community supports themselves by selling these items to pilgrims, tourists, people who come through Bethlehem. Of course, no one is doing that these days. So this is a way for us, in collaboration with Father Tom Craig and the people at St. James Parish in Eau Claire, to help the L'Arche community in Bethlehem. So that takes care of our Advent-related items. Christmas comes after Advent, and we will be celebrating Mass 5 times, as I mentioned, at 2, 4, 6, and 8 on Christmas Eve, and at 9:30 Christmas morning. You can register for all of those Masses, any of those Masses online. You need to register in advance. All the normal precautions will be followed, including likely assigned seating, just so that we can be most efficient in finding places for the people who have signed up. At this point, if you're rather flexible in your schedule, and I'm kind of thinking in these days, we're all kind of a little bit flexible, the 8 p.m. and 9:30 a.m. have the most room at this time. So if you're inclined to join us for worship, those 2 times, 8 p.m. and 9:30 a.m. might be something to look at. Regarding participation at Mass on Christmas, I'd encourage you to review the worship aid, which for this coming Sunday, which is included with this email, and which have a little reflection on our celebration at Christmas. This is an iffy kind of time for lots of people to be coming together. Our Protestant sisters and brothers are not gathering in person, most of them. They will be celebrating Christmas online. And we will do that as well. Our 6 p.m. Mass will be live streamed, and that will be available to watch anytime after that. But in terms of being present for Mass, just to give some attention to that reflection, I struggle with that myself. We're creating a situation 5 times where people will come into church, and we will do it safely. That's how I can convince myself that it's okay. But I just want all of us to kind of be on the same page. So if you could check out that reflection in the bulletin, that would be appreciated. So I mentioned there is a worship aid connected with this email for Sunday, for Saturday night and Sunday. Also with this email is a worship aid for Thursday's Vespers and a link to the Vespers. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. Most importantly, with this email is a link to Thursday's Vespers and a worship aid for that evening prayer. So that takes care. Oh, one other thing related to Christmas is that we will need ministers for those liturgies. We've had some ministers drop out because of work concerns about the spread of COVID, a few who have been in quarantine, a few who have tested positive and been sick. So we are going to need kind of an all hands on deck thing for people who are willing to assist the community as we come together to celebrate Christmas for those liturgies. Just respond to this email and let me know of your interest or availability. We've had some folks who've said, yes, I'll read at multiple Masses. If you can assist at multiple Masses as well, let us know which Masses you're available for. And we will make it as pleasant an experience as possible. Again, ministers, readers, welcome ministers and servers for those Christmas liturgies. So Advent, Christmas over here. This is our first week where we have been functioning as a parish without Bobby Gadke, our finance director, who has begun orientation with a new position that she has taken with Myron Construction. So far, we're doing okay. Of course, it's only Wednesday. Thankfully, Bobby has agreed to stay on in a part-time role to tend to the necessities in this interim and also to help the new finance director get on board. To that position, we've had several good applications that have come in. The deadline is Wednesday, but if you're interested or you know someone who might be, there's further information about that finance director position with this email. Please spread the word, or if you're interested, we'd encourage your application. While today is the deadline, if we get it on Thursday, that's okay too. And just a word about Bobby and gratitude for her years of faithful service to our parish. She has been very attentive to so many details that I can't begin to comprehend. And actually, oftentimes I'll say to her, I don't want to know about them. I'm glad she could take care of those things. And so we're grateful for what Bobby contributed to our parish, and she promises us that she's not leaving our parish. She'll be around and still engaged in some of the activities and things that are happening here. So we're grateful to Bobby as she steps away, and grateful as well as she helps to acclimate her replacement. And then one other word in terms of seeking assistance. John Schmidt, we talked with him last week about some new technology that's being installed in church to assist with audio and video in terms of our live stream. He's also seeking people to assist in facilitating all that behind the scenes, the stream team. If you'd like to learn more about that, reply to this email or send an email to John as well. I want to share a reflection by Father Alfred Delp. He was a Jesuit. He was killed in 1945 in Germany. He was part of kind of a movement to challenge the Nazi regime, and that led to his death. This is from a book that he wrote of Advent reflections, and I offer it as we, just in the shadow of Tuesday's celebration of the Solemnity of the Immaculate Conception of Mary, which is a solemnity that has significant meaning for our parish, and that our patron St. Anne, she had something to do with the conception of Mary. We won't get into all the technical theological aspects of that doctrine, but Mary was conceived and she was born into the world, and our tradition identifies St. Anne as the mother of Mary. So a significant solemnity for all of us as Catholics, but I think especially for those of us who look to St. Anne as our patron. So I want to share this passage from Father Alfred Delp. That God would become a mother's son, and that a woman could walk upon this earth, her body consecrated as a holy temple and tabernacle for God, is truly the earth's culmination and the fulfillment of its expectation. I just love that line, that God would become a mother's son. There we see the humanity and the divinity of Jesus, all wrapped up, described in those few words. Coming across this reflection by Father Alfred Delp, it was the third of several encounters I've had in the last week with significant figures from that Nazi World War II era in Austria and Germany. Last week, we had the Gospel of John, the voice crying out from the wilderness. And that inspired Helen Ackerman, who's a longtime parish minister here in central Wisconsin at St. Mark's primarily. She was also principal for a time at St. Therese, but primarily most of her time was in ministry at St. Mark's in Rothschild. That's where I got to know her. I was an intern there when I was in the seminary in 1993. And Helen and Father Al Sloviak have been significant influences in my ministry. Well, anyway, she's retired now, but she still writes a column for the Bulletin, which is posted on Facebook. And in last week's column, she talked about Dietrich Bonhoeffer as a significant voice in the wilderness. He was a Lutheran pastor, and his voice and witness, again, was experienced during the Nazi era in Germany. In fact, he was killed because of his role in a conspiracy to assassinate Adolf Hitler. Father Delp, who I mentioned first, he was also killed because of his involvement in some anti-Hitler movements. But Helen identified Dietrich Bonhoeffer, the significant Lutheran pastor, for his witness and his courage at a very tumultuous time in our world. And a week ago, I had watched a movie about Franz Jagerstadter, who maybe many of you haven't heard of, but he's one of those people who we should all have heard of. The week of Thanksgiving weekend, I had free HBO and Showtime for some reason. And one of the movies that was being shown was called The Hidden Life, which I had never heard of before, but I was intrigued by the title. And I looked, and it was the story of Franz Jagerstadter, who I did know about. And it's a wonderful movie. If you have a chance to see it, The Hidden Life, I would really encourage you to see it. So Franz Jagerstadter was a farmer in Austria, up in the mountains, kind of where Maria the Van Traps go at some point. He was a farmer, he and his wife, 3 daughters, and the movie does a great job of showing how difficult farming was for these folks at that time. Minding his own business until he's drafted to join the Nazi army. And he is a devout Catholic and inclined to be a pacifist. Conscientious objection is something that is very seriously being considered by Franz. He doesn't even get to the point of having to bear arms, however, because part of being conscripted into the Nazi army is taking a vow of loyalty to Adolf Hitler, and he cannot do that. In anticipating this vow, he talks to his pastor, he talks to the bishop, both of whom encourage him to just let it go, to just do it. Go, do what you need to do, hopefully return safely to your farm, to your wife and your daughters. But Franz Jagerstadter cannot do it. He has professed his vow to Jesus Christ. He has professed vows of marriage to his wife. He cannot make a vow of loyalty to Adolf Hitler. And so he is arrested, he is court-martialed, and he is sentenced to death. And along the way, he's given many opportunities to renege, to set aside his objection, to vow loyalty, to go off to war and to continue his life. But he will have none of it. At the end, in the movie anyway, the general who presides over the court-martial says to him, this is a ridiculous thing you're doing here. You're going to lose your life. No one will ever hear of you again. What is the point? Except the general was wrong. People did hear of Franz Jagerstadter again. His story continued to be told. And indeed, a few years ago, he was beatified by Pope Benedict. And we now not just know of Franz Jagerstadter, we look to him and call upon him as Blessed Franz Jagerstadter. So again, 3 significant witnesses, voices of courage, of faithfulness, of determination, important for us to look at any time, but especially in these Advent days when we listen for voices and we look for witnesses in the wilderness of our world. So again, the movie of Blessed Franz Jagerstadter is The Hidden Life. I want to conclude our time today with prayer coming from Scripture, specifically chapter 2 of Isaiah. This is what Isaiah, son of Amoz, saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. In days to come, the mountain of the Lord's house shall be established as the highest mountain and raised above the hills. All nations shall stream toward it. Many peoples shall come and say, "Come, let us climb the Lord's mountain to the house of the God of Jacob, that he may instruct us in his ways, and we may walk in his paths. He shall judge between the nations and impose terms on many peoples. They shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. One nation shall not raise the sword against another, nor shall they train for war again. O house of Jacob, come, let us walk in the light of the Lord." Amen.